Hi, welcome to the Bubble IO Learning Series by No Code UCLA. We'll be teaching you the basics of building a tech product without having to write a single line of code. This video will teach you how to add input fields to Bubble in order to let your users type in and select information, and how to make sure that your elements display properly in preview mode. The first time that users input info for most apps and websites is during registration. So let's start by creating a new page for registration. The way to add a new page on Bubble is to click up here on the top left, then click Add a New Page. Next, you're going to name it. What you name it here will be what appears in the URL, so make it short and simple. Also, if you have a pre-existing page that you want to use as a template for the new one, you can choose that here. The first, most basic input on Bubble is the single line input. Again, you can click in place or click and drag. Let's start with something simple, your user's name. I'm going to edit the placeholder text so that they know what to type. Next, let's add email and password. Now, Bubble has a cool feature that helps you make sure your users are inputting info correctly. When you click on the input, you can set content format. What this does is it automatically checks that what they typed matches what you want. So for this, I'm going to set it to be email. Now, by clicking preview, we can see what your user will see. Now I'm going to type in something that's not an email. As you can see, it glows red so that your users know that they did something wrong. But actual email address, you can see it no longer glows red. This still red versus not red. Now I'm going to do the same thing for password. The next type of input is the multi-line input. Use this when your user needs to input a chunk of information. For example, an introductory paragraph, or maybe a movie review comment. The main difference between this and the single line is that you can make this longer if the user types more text. Now, I'm going to skip over the details for a couple of these inputs, but remember, you can always hover and click See Reference in order to read the manual. Checkbox lets you add checkboxes. Dropdown gives you a dropdown list to select from. Search box enables autocomplete based off a set of choices. These choices can also come from your database, but we'll cover that in a later lesson. Date and time picker is pretty useful. You can set it to be just date or date and time. Finally, picture uploader can be used for things like profile pictures or movie posters. By now, you might have noticed that when you click preview, it doesn't look exactly the same as how you designed it. The reason for this is responsiveness. Bubble knows that your users will be on screens of different sizes and has made it so that your elements can adjust locations based on that. However, if you do not properly set how you want them to adjust, this can make everything look weird. To set responsiveness rules, click on the Responsive tab. Then, click on each element that you want to check. There are three main settings: fixed width, fixed margin, and max width. Fixed width means that your element will stay the same size regardless of screen size. If this isn't checked, then it'll grow if the user screen is smaller than your design screen. And shrink if it's smaller. Fixed margin determines what side your elements will align to. If it's on the left, it'll stay to the left. If it's centered, it'll try to stay in the center. And if it's to the right, it'll stay to the right. Max width just ensures that your element will not grow over a certain percentage relative to its original size. Also, for images specifically, keep element proportions helps to ensure that your pictures correctly display as the page size changes. Play around with these settings, and you should be able to start getting a sense of how to make things look the way that you want them to. Groups will also prove to be useful when you're fiddling with different combinations of responsiveness settings. Say, for example, you want to keep these header buttons the same distance apart from each other, but you want to move them as a whole. What you can do is put them in a group like this and make the group fixed width. but change the fixed margin so that it moves as the screen size changes. Smart use of groupings will make your life much easier, both for this and for what you'll learn in future lessons. Now you know how to use inputs and set responsiveness. The second part of your design assignment will be to create a registration page with all the inputs that I mentioned. You can make up reasons to add them to the page. For example, a date and time selector to collect your user's birthday. You also need to properly set responsiveness for your elements and groups so that they look nice regardless of your user's screen size. Do this for both registration and your previous landing page. And that will be the second part of your design assignment.